tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You even hear some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, one and all. Hello to our family, friends, subscribers, new additions, first-timers from near and far. It's good to be with you this evening. Hoping I'm coming through loud and clear. Harry, I see you. Where you been? Harry? It is good to be back with you this evening, and welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks, Voices of the Islands, Conversations for the World, the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. Yes, I'm Sabrina, and it's good to be back with you this afternoon for another, hopefully, very insightful, informative conversation as we keep you in the know. Yes, I am thankful, Harry. I'm very thankful to be alive and even more blessed to be living here in the beautiful Cayman Islands. Yes, you bet your cotton socks. I am in one of, if not the most beautiful islands in the Caribbean and the most precious place on the planet. Yeah, I claim it today. How's the weather treating you? Hope you're doing good. But yeah, it is good to be back with you this evening. And of course, you are more than welcome to join in the conversation, be it you comment on social media or you give me a WhatsApp, 345-936-8255, or call in and be a part of the discussion as well. Because I want to take the opportunity this evening to kind of let you know exactly all of those motions that were brought and bills that were brought forward by the government in yesterday's meeting that went on. That was after 11. Yeah, like almost morning. And pretty much they wrapped it up yesterday and what it means for us now. And that is a way of finally dissecting exactly what went down, and we break it down. But of course, at any time during the discussions, you are feel free. If there's something that's bothering you, if it's something that's bugging you, we can shift gears, and we definitely will involve and include you into the discussion as well. But please remember that the content that you are about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and or participants, is intended solely for general informational and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. So I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional regarding any specific concerns. Bridge Media Limited and all its affiliates disclaims all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. Yes. Welcome, one and all as you come in this hump day. Yes, I can't believe it. It's Wednesday already. Soon be getting ready for Easter. Yeah, I've said that before, and that's how quickly time flies. But just how you probably packing up your Easter or mapping out your spots for Easter and getting all of your deliveries, maybe from Amazon, where you transport your house to some campsite. You want to make sure you know what the weather is like, but let's keep it real. Let me give you the weather forecast for tonight and into tomorrow. Compliments of our team over there at the Cayman Islands National Weather Service. The synopsis calls for moderate winds and slight seas are expected across the Cayman area as a ridge of high pressure lingers over the Northwest Caribbean. Now, some isolated showers are possible due to low level moisture over the Cayman area. Satellite imagery shows patches of layered clouds across the Northwest Caribbean. Now, the forecast for tonight calls for mostly fair skies with a 20% chance of early morning showers. Temperatures will fall to the mid to upper 70s. And winds will be east 5 to 10 knots. Seas will be slight with wave heights of 1 to 3 feet. The forecast for tomorrow calls for partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of showers. Temperatures will rise near to the mid upper 80s with a heat index of 94. Winds will be east 5 to 10 knots and seas will be slight with wave heights of 1 to 3 feet. There will be a high tide at there was a high tide at 4:20, a low tide at 10:50 this evening. The sun will set at 6:33 and sun will rise tomorrow morning at 6:37. And the outlook is calling for similar weather conditions through Saturday. So there you go. We're having more updates as we move along here, and we're still happy to be having this kind of weather here. Unlike some people across the pond, they wish they were having these temperatures. I know it, but that's why I said we're blessed. Let's begin and take a look right now as we turn the segment over to bringing you in the know at what news is making the Sabrina Speaks podcast for this Wednesday evening. And let's begin with local news. Now, the fourth meeting of the 2025-2026 session of Parliament wrapped up on Tuesday night, closing out a productive fourth sitting of the House. Lawmakers passed several key pieces of legislation, including amendments to the traffic law, the litter law, and the registered land law, along with new administrative appeals tribunal bill. And in a move with long-term significance for Caymanian identity, Parliament also approved a motion recommending constitutional protections for the traditional district boundaries on Grand Cayman. East End is set for a major community upgrade as the government breaks ground on the redevelopment of George Dixon Park. Now, the Honorable Isaac Rankin will lead the ceremony on Thursday, March 19th at 9:30 in the morning, marking the start of a more vibrant and accessible green space for families. Now, residents are invited to attend and RSVPs should be requested by 12th of March. And you can email that to ysch-events@gov.ky. In other local news, a major land dispute is back in the spotlight. According to a report from Cayman News Service, the government's attempt to compulsory acquire Dora's Beach, also known as Red Spot, has been called one of the clearest cases of unfairness to come before the court. The property's owner, Chris Johnson, says he plans to place the land in trust for the Caymanian people, while the government argues it needs to be a traditional fish market site. A judicial review is now underway, with the court examining whether the acquisition process violated basic fairness and property rights. We'll definitely keep you updated as this case develops. And in regional news, turning our attention over in the British Virgin Islands, Health and Social Development Minister Ronnie Skelton is calling for the introduction of a human rights bill. Skelton says the territory needs stronger legal protections to safeguard the rights and freedoms of all residents. And he's urging the government to move forward with comprehensive legislation. Now, this proposal has sparked fresh debate across the BVI as discussion on governance and accountability continues. In news out of Jamaica, authorities have completed the national damage assessment following Hurricane Melissa. Minister Charles Jr. confirmed that 100,000 properties have now been evaluated across the island, giving the government a clear picture on the storm's impact and the scale of recovery ahead. Officials say that the data will guide relief efforts to help fast-track support for the hardest hit communities. Keeping it in the region, Barbados is launching an urgent recruitment campaign to strengthen air traffic control at Grantley Adams International Airport after a 7-hour airspace shutdown last week left travelers stranded. Now, officials say the closure has triggered by staffing shortages and industrial action among controllers, forcing several flights to divert. The government now plans to rapidly hire and train new personnel to prevent future disruptions. Now, we have breaking news coming out of the United States just before going live. And according to multiple US news outlets, including ABC News, the FBI has issued an alert to police departments across California, warning that Iran has allegedly considered launching unmanned aerial drones at targets along the West Coast. The alert reviewed by ABC News states the U.S. official recently obtained intelligence suggesting that as early as February, Iran aspired to conduct a surprise attack using unmanned aerial vehicles from an unidentified vessel off the U.S. coastline. Now, reports from FS Gates and MSN also confirms that the warning was distributed to California law enforcement at the end of February, outlining concerns that any U.S. military action against Iran could trigger a retaliatory drone strike. The Independent also reports that the FBI emphasized the threat was conditional, linked to whether the U.S. carried out strikes against Iran, but serious enough to evaluate monitoring across the West Coast. At this time, there's no indication of an imminent attack, but federal and state agencies are on heightened alert. And in other news out of the U.S., looking at the business, Walmart has announced it will be equipping every U.S. store with digital shelf labels within the next year, making it one of the largest technology upgrades in the company's history. Now, according to multiple reports, including in International Business Times, Walmart has already installed the digital labels in roughly 2,300 stores, and the nationwide rollout is now officially underway. The new system allows Walmart to update thousands of prices in minutes instead of days, improving accuracy and freeing staff from manual swiping paper tags. The company also says this shift will focus more on customer service, while critics are watching closely for potential concerns around what some call surveillance pricing. Walmart experts expects all U.S. locations to be fully converted by the end of 2026, bringing a major modernization to the in-store shopping experience. And on the international front, just in, CNN reports that the U.S. military likely struck an Iranian elementary school after relying on outdated intelligence, a mistake that Iran official says cost the lives of more than 160 children and 14 teachers. Rescue workers described tiny backpacks, scattered notebooks amongst the rubble as families searched for loved ones. U.S. officials say the incident is under active investigation. And in sports, we turn our attention to Iran's sports minister has announced that the national team will not participate in the 2026 FIFA World Cup, citing U.S. airstrikes that killed the country's supreme leader. Officials say players would not be safe competing on American soil, where Iran was scheduled to play all gapped stages match. Now, the withdrawal comes as tensions escalate across the region, raising fresh questions about how geopolitics may shape this summer's tournament. As we close out today's segment and continue our celebration of Women's Month here in the Cayman Islands, we turn our attention to the Cayman Islands Coast Guard and the remarkable women who serve within the ranks. Today, we take the opportunity to recognize the strength and professionalism and quiet courage of our female officers. These women are on the front lines of marine safety, search, rescue, and border protection, logistics, training, and community engagement. And their dedication keeps our waters safe, supports national security, and strengthens the future of Coast Guard. Now, they are role models not only for young women who dream of serving, but for every Caymanian who believes in discipline, service, and country. Their example reminds us that leadership is not defined by size or rank, but by character, commitment, and heart. And we are proud of the women who serve and grateful for the path that they are clearing for the next generation of leaders. Now, on behalf of the Cayman Islands Coast Guard and the appreciation from Lieutenant Commander Robert Scotland, we honor you. And that's also us here from the Sabrina Speaks platform. Thank you all for your service. That ends, yes, this segment of Sabrina Speaks with headline news, not only locally, regionally, but around the world, and bringing it back home as we continue to celebrate our women here in the Cayman Islands. Welcome, welcome, one and all. It's good to be with you this evening. Happy birthday to all of those persons who are celebrating birthdays today, wedding anniversaries, and just celebrating life. It's good to be back with you. From all of us here on the Sabrina Speaks family, we wish you nothing but the best, but we also remember those and keep those in our thoughts and prayers who are actually suffering or feeling the loss of a loved one. Aliano, how are you? Are you locked in with me today? How is the healing coming on? I remember you. Yep, Harry is here. I am good, my love. The weather in England is miserable as always. You can keep it. We'll send you lots of love virtual sunshine. Hey, Marshall. Marshall is in the house. Damian Henry is also here. It's so good to have you as usual. Dean Sinclair, hi. How are you? It's good. Not yet. Harry, not yet. The deputy governor has not yet been appointed. 19 not applied to BVIs. We can look into that. Nope. Are you telling us, right? Yeah. Connie, good evening. It's good to have you in the house. Yes. Harry, I saw this, and here in the UK, the Mandelson files have been released. Yeah. I was going to do a clipping on that, but I wanted to do a little bit more on it, and I'll probably just do a little coverage on that for tomorrow in my UK segment. So yeah, but thank you for highlighting that. It's popping up all over social media. Yep, all on the news sites. It's there. Yes. But it's good to have you with us. Where you been? You been on the DL? Always good to have you here. Live happy. Good evening to you as well. Where's my Jimbo? Still fighting those allergies? Jimbo. How are you? Yes. I know it takes some of you a little while to get into the house. So you know what? Let's just get into it. But if something is on your mind, something is plaguing you that you want to air, of course, the phone lines are wide open, 345-936-8255 to join in the conversation. Alfred Reel is in the house. How you doing, my love? It's good to see you there. Always a pleasure to see you logged on and commenting as well. Yeah. But the phone lines are open. Of course, you're more than welcome to participate, to weigh in and what you think. The last, I don't know if you stayed up last night, any of you stayed up, but I did. After finishing here, I went and I just pretty much crashed on the couch, didn't realize that they were still on. And before you know it, it was almost good morning. Yes, going almost till midnight. Yeah. So I stayed, watched them go through the whole committee amendment stage. There were some amendments being made to some of the bills that were in there. And that was from both sides of the aisle and all that sort of stuff. It's good to have you. Good to see you, Jimbo. I see you. Hey, Lily, how you doing? Yep, I'm here. And yes, the allergies are full. Oh, no. Yeah. Hope you get a break soon, my love. Hope you get a break soon. But yeah, a lot of what was discussed last night was a back and forth. I've been in those long meetings that pretty much gets you home sometimes 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. That's okay. Got work to do, you get it done. You got an agenda, you got to do it. You just got to do it, right? But you do see where it does a wear and tear after like 9, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Yeah, it kind of gets a little wonky. And that's pretty much going all day. But you know what? They had a mission, they had an agenda. Let's close this down. Let's suck it up. We got work to do. And they ended Parliament. So At the end of the day, we got now, and I've brought it here to you, the Litter Amendment Bill of 2026 was unanimously passed and supported. There were a number of amendments. Of course, I'm expecting the ministry or the relevant ministries where amendments were made in committee stage, that in short order, they will be coming out and breaking it down to you exactly what was changed, because what we may have reported on when the bill was placed out for public consultation, there were a number of suggestions or amendments, tidying up, so to speak, that you would call it, in a lot of these bills that actually took place in the committee amendment stage. But what changed, including that we can just highlight right now, and because it was just so much information coming in with a number of the changes from definitions to replacements to removals, there were not a lot of significant changes. What we captured, and just to refresh your memories, the whole aim was that it was going to have fines for littering, and those were going to be strengthened. And government were also going to put in this bill administrative penalties, which means that on-the-spot fines without needing to go to court would actually be covered in the law. Now, if I'm actually repeating some of the stuff that have been expounded on or tightened up, those changes would have come in the committee stage amendment, right? But pretty much what I'm doing is very high level, would not necessarily include verbatimly any or all of the amendments that were actually done at committee stage amendment. But pretty much this is a gist of why this came to Parliament, what I will be sharing with you. And a part of some of the amendments as well is that it updated to reflect recommendations from the beautification task force, because we knew that they made some very sound recommendations as well. And why it matters is because we'll be able to crack down on littering more effectively. These bills actually gives more teeth, more power for the civil servants to be able to uphold the law. So now that certain amendments and clarification definitions have been placed, for example, in this piece of legislation, where there were ambiguities, whether it was public health, whether it was DEH, whether it was Royal Cayman Islands Police Service because of derelict vehicles, how do you handle them? The aim was to capture a lot of those and just make it clear as to where and who responsibility lies on, and strengthen the piece of legislation. And it also was aimed to actually capture and be able to have faster enforcement that will yield cleaner communities and less red tape for officers issuing fines. So now with some of these amendments to that one piece of legislation, your MPs have done their part, okay, in that piece of legislation and in all the legislations. Now it is up for the civil servants, once the law commences, to either fund, well, government funds it, the MPs funds it, fund the various departments with the necessary resources, staffing, equipment, in order to training to be able to uphold these laws. So what you've elected your MPs to do for any bill that was actually unanimously passed on the floor of Parliament, your MPs' work is not done because they should keep in communication. They should make sure that things are applied. But once these laws goes into effect and where regulations is needed, they have pretty much passed over executing and upholding these laws, making sure that they're functioning to give the country the results that they're looking for. That responsibility now has to be carried out by the civil servants. I want that to sink in. So the debate, the back and forth, making sure the proper wording is concerned, is in the law. Your MPs do that on the floor of Parliament. And then they, during the budget time, would have fought for budget in their ministries, knowing that some of these amendments were coming through by law, that they would then have the necessary funding as well. So when their budget took effect as of January 1st, 2026, these things that are now in law should already have some form of funding. If it isn't 100%, it's partial, so that you can start rolling out some of these things. Now, bearing in mind, we did see emergency orders based on the Constitution, where some of the amendments now was to get legislation changed because it was a national priority. Now, you may say, well, what about all of those that they may not necessarily impact resources, staffing, or additional funding. Maybe the funding is already there. But again, there are specific sections in the law where, should additional funding is needed, there are provisions in the processes that, because of what is now law, whenever it's commenced, additional funding could be tapped into, but that takes the buy-in of the entire cabinet and inclusive of caucus. So I just want you to understand that, right? The other bill that was passed as well, Mutual Funds Amendment Bill of 2026, and what changes were proposed for that and subject to amendments could be expounded on, is updates to Cayman's rules for mutual funds to match global standards, because we see where the wording in many cases was antiquated, was outdated. So what they're doing, they're modernizing this particular piece of legislation. And it also has bits in it and wordings in it that strengthens reporting and gives more oversight requirements. Why this is very important, again, you understand that the Cayman Islands, one of our main pillars for revenue is the financial services. And when legislation like this is either outdated in the way that we're wording is, it could actually give a bad reflection where we're modernizing on one end, but legislation that is the foundation of any industry from a national perspective needs to be brought up to speed as well. So what it does, it keeps the Cayman Islands, our jurisdiction being one of a financial center, it keeps our jurisdiction very competitive and compliant with international standards and modernize us. And then what it does, it gives a layer of protection over financial service, the industry in itself. And again, I can't repeat it enough. That is one, and it is a major part of our economy. We also had another piece of legislation that would impact the financial industry, and that's the Private Funds Amendment Bill 2026. And the changes, again, could have been amended or additional changes, but in higher level, what was put out in the public's domain, and some amendments could have been made last night as well. But in a synopsis of what was put forward for changes is that similar to the mutual funds update, but this particular piece of law bear focused on private investment funds. And what it also does is it also improves regulatory clarification, making sure things are explicitly clear, and compliance expectations. So they're trying to close the loopholes as much as possible. And if there were any misunderstanding, not making it clear, hoping they would have captured those in this particular amendment. And what it does, it ensures that we as the Cayman Islands remains as a trusted jurisdiction, and also have in our legislation, baked in our legislation, well-regulated, that keeps us with that branding as being a well-regulated jurisdiction. Now, helps being in that position helps us maintain, of course, investor confidence, and we all should benefit from that, right? Key. So another one as well was the Virtual Assets Service Provider Amendment Bill of 2026. And some of the changes for that was updates to the Cayman cryptocurrency and digital assets regulations. And it strengthens licensing and anti-money laundering requirements. And what this does as we go into the digital footprint of our jurisdiction, it creates a level of protection for consumers, businesses in what we're seeing right now is fast growing crypto space and digital space, period. And it also keeps the Cayman Islands aligned again with international financial standards. So you can see where it's all tying in. We got the litter law that keeps with our cleanliness, and that impacts our product. It can impact, yes, our tourism product. It could impact our health. It can impact our finances. So you can see where all of these bills and amendments actually intertwine. Yeah, they do. And the big one, this one for sure, I know went through without any amendments. Congratulations to the Honorable Minister J.E. Banks. And that one is the Registered Land Amendment Bill of 2026. Now, we went through that one line by line here on Sabrina Speaks, and what that changes in a lot of Caymanians. Well, let me just tell you what changes first, and I'll side off a little bit. What that envisaged it to change is that it was modernizing land registration processes, and it improves administrative clarity and reduces outdated processes. And why this was so important is because it makes buying and selling and transferring land smoother and reduces disputes and delays in land registry. And there's another piece as well where it dealt with foreclosures and how those are actually handled. And the thing is with these legislation is that from what is made to understand, even though for those persons who are right now maybe unfortunately facing foreclosure, even though these were actually passed, it would not grandfather in, is what I understood. So I subject to change. I stand to be corrected. If you're actually already in foreclosure, it wouldn't impact you. So if your house, your property right now, and all of these amendments that were being put forward, you wouldn't be in this net of persons to be protected. It would only be if a facility was purchased or go into foreclosure after this law commences. Yeah. And you may say, well, oh, it passed. What do you mean it's not commenced? No, I'll go into that for you. And there was also an Administrative Appeals Tribunal Bill of 2025 as well. That went through, and what that was changes is that it's establishing or strengthens the tribunal for appealing government decisions. And it also created a structure of fair process for administrative appeals. And why this is important, because it gives the public a clear and more accessible way of challenging government's decisions if someone wants to challenge a government decision. And it also reduces the need for costly court proceedings. So that's one good thing there. Now, like I said, there could be some tidying up that needs to be done. And I'll go into this segment more of the may, the shall, the commas, the full stops, all of those sort of stuff. They may seem petty, but they are big. And I'll go into that more. Also, the Immigration Transition Amendment Validation Bill, where it was actually fixing gaps in previous immigration legislation. It grandfathers in people who applied for permanent residence under older rules. And it also allows people born in Cayman on or before the 26th of March, 1977 to be formally recognized as Caymanian. And it validates certain past administrative decisions to ensure legal consistency. And we all know that immigration has been a big topic, a big talk here as we continue to fill the people's mandate when it comes to immigration reform. And what this particular amendment is that it provides, or should have captured, and provides certainty for thousands of Caymanians and long-term residents. It also clears up and reduces any confusion for employers and workers alike. And it also ensures that immigration's decisions are legally sound. That is what they were actually trying to capture in the essence of this. Now, like I said, there were some amendments being made, a committee stage amendment. We will just wait for the latest on those amendments and what they were, what it means, and how it could impact what was out in the public's domain that you had a say on. And we'll look at it. What happens when these amendments are being made in real time on the floor of Parliament and you don't have your say? The phone lines are open, 936-8255. Please, by any means, anytime during this conversation, you can call in, you can comment. I will make sure that I keep up with them. But to just get out of what was done, and if you didn't know, all of these things have been passed. And like I said, some with amendments, some without. But I just thought it was important for me to highlight these things to you as we keep you in tune here. Of course, life goes back to normal here on Sabrina Speaks. We'll look out for whatever bills or anything else that is out for public consultation. Once we are aware of it, we will keep you abreast of it in layman's terms as we continue to elevate and educate each other here in this space. You heard me spoke about amendments in committee stage. Let me break it down, because I don't think people realize that it's one thing when you present a motion, a bill, on the floor of Parliament, you debate it, you go back and forth, every man has their say. But do you really, really understand what happens in a committee stage and why it matters? Okay, yeah, you got, yay, division is called, everyone has played their hand, who's in support, who's for, who's against, that part is done. Yay, you're home run. But then there may be some committee stage amendments that has to be made. It's not all over then. But I deliberately say this for members of civil society, for all of us who actually have their say, want their say, and want to be a part of democracy, be included, to just highlight exactly when the speaker comes from the big chair, comes down, calls the Parliament to order and declare we're now in committee stage amendment. Because a lot of people do not really understand. Members of civil society, those who are learned, those who are in the industry, those who follow it up may understand. But now that I'm realizing that you guys are paying a lot more attention, let me just tell you what that little section means. When it gets to this stage, we need to just make sure that, one, every part of the law, the making of the law and the process that most people never hear about, but it's one of the most important stages of all. I've heard some stories about committee stage amendments that would blow your mind. And this is where the real rewriting of the law happens. When you hear them going in committee stage amendments, that's when the real rewriting of the laws happen. But guess what? That's happening in real time on the floor of Parliament that could have come out on debates, suggestions, and ideas that may have come or taken out of the exchange during the debating section. And after a bill is debated, they go into this committee stage. And that is where our members of Parliament go through the bill line by line. Listen to what I'm about to say. They add, they remove, they change wording, they insert clauses, they rewrite possibly entire section, fix errors, or accidentally create new ones. The operative word there is create new ones. And my friends, it is the editing room of Parliament when they go into committee stage amendment. And in law, details are powerful. I have heard you all exchanged many a times on this platform, how the may, why they change it to shall, or that. These things are imperative when it comes to committee stage amendments, because tiny words can change every single thing. You think, yeah, Jim accidentally. Yeah, it could have been your pen have dropped, but it dropped right in the right place, that it looked like it was a comma. Yeah, accidentally. And words like shall versus may, must versus should, and versus or, and like the good old comma in the wrong place. And these small changes, my friends, can expand or limit government's power. It can change who qualifies for a benefit. It could actually alter even how a law is enforced and shift even people's rights. Some of these simple little things can even create or even close loopholes. A single word can change an entire meaning of a law. And I feel that committee stage amendments, or when the parliament goes into that committee stage, you, the public, and also the members of parliament need to take that seriously. Take it seriously. Because this is the biggest takeaway. The public is not a part of that section. You, my friends, is not a part of that stage. You're not involved in that. Yeah. The public as a whole cannot participate in committee stage. So you cannot speak, you can't object, you can't even suggest changes at that point. You can't even ask questions. You can only watch. So you, at this stage, you, every one of us, actually are left to trust your MPs. Yeah. You're at that particular stage, you honestly have to trust that your elected member of parliament, one, understands the bill. Two, understands the amendment. And three, the most powerful of all, understand the consequences. Because once, now listen to this, once committee stage is done, the bill itself is almost finished. And I use the word almost because then it has to go back into parliament, they come out of committee stage, and they go back and they do their final vote. But once that amendment stage is done, pretty much the writing of that bill is over. Because in this stage, laws then are strengthened, loopholes are closed, mistakes hopefully are corrected or none being included. But it's also where protections can be weakened. It's also a stage where rights can be even narrowed. And it's also a particular stage where an entire meaning can shift, all without public's consultation. And my friend, that is where and why transparency, public awareness, and member of parliament, your MP's accountability matters so much. Yes. If you were observing closely, you would see at one point in time, and you go back to last night, it appears that in the chamber there was not even a quorum. This is not calling out anybody because, like I said, going into 10, 11 o'clock at night, it can get a little frustrating, but you're almost at the end. In a committee stage, that is a serious section. Yeah, I challenge you to go back and look at it. Now that we're putting and spotlighting the importance of these different stages and how parliament functions and why it's important for everyone to be a part of it. I know the days can be long. That's okay. You're there to do a job, and the people expects you to make sure that you do your job. Get through committee stage. Yeah. Get through committee stage. And then now that you understand how the bills part are shaped and when they're passed, we've gone through this already, but I think it's very important for me, based on the bills that were passed, amended, and how it can impact the quality of lives, save people's homes, that you understand exactly really what happens next. Because what I realize is that a number of people tune in or they hear when it's applicable to them. Even though it may seem repetitive to others, people really listen when it's on their doorstep. Hence, I repeat it. What will happen now is that the governor has to assent to it. The bill needs to be approved by Her Excellency, the governor. And then the bill becomes law once it's signed off by the governor. And that's called the governor's assenting to it. And then what happens is that publication is done, the law is officially recorded, and then commencement. So you hear those two steps? Some laws start immediately, others start at a later date based on when cabinet says it. And then the implementation is that government agencies then update forms, systems, procedures, and this is where the money part comes in. Because in order to implement it, the civil servants then have to get in line in order to execute these laws, regulations, and that is only possible in some cases if they're properly funded, if they're properly trained, if they got the necessary equipment in order to be able for all the debate that happens on the floor of Parliament, all the tweaking, everything that happened in committee stage amendment. It is all for naught if it is not funded, if the departments are not properly staffed, staff get access to training and funded. And then guess what comes last while you're still waiting is the public's impact. Meaning that is when you then start to feel the changes in real time. Now, some of these bills and amendments, you would say, Ms. Sabrina, we already start feeling it because people not going to wait for them to implement it and do commencement date. If they can see a freight train is going to hit a wall, why am I going to wait for the freight train to hit the wall? I'm going to be planning out my life, my future, based on the discussion, based on the public consultation. And worse, if you hear how the debates are going on and it's not in your favor. I'm just speaking broad brush. But those are the 5 stages, and you look at where public impact comes. But what we're seeing as businesses plan for legislation, they have to actually look at their workflow. They have to look at their funding. They have to look and prepare for these new bills, these new laws, these new policies, and you think they're not working? They are working even before it goes out for public consultation, especially if they get wind of what's coming down the pipeline. I bear emphasis on this evening to say just how businesses prepare individually in our own households, how we even look at navigating life in our own home. We should be doing the same. Because direct and indirect impact from anything that is done, we need to prepare our homes. Just have your elected MPs do it for your country. You need to really take an analysis of your workspace, your living space, and you need to make the necessary adjustments as well. It's just not the business owners. Some of you say, easy for her to say, I'm living from hand to mouth. It could get worse. It could get worse, or it could get better. But no matter what, the key takeaway is that we should all prepare when we see certain bills, certain laws, read the room, look at the environment. You really think I sit here and produce a news segment and include news from places I've never been and probably will never be just for so? Because while all of that is happening around us, this is happening right in your mouth, right on your doorstep. That is going to have impacts on your quality of life, access to property, how your yards are kept, this is happening at home while everything else is happening around us. We see legislation in our financial industry being amended. We're seeing where we're aligning ourselves for digital businesses in our financial industry. We're seeing where certain things are being amended, even in the healthcare industry. We see where private members' motions are even creating pathways for entrepreneurial opportunities based on the private members' motion for recycling equipment and duties being removed from anybody who wants to bring in equipment to help with recycling. That's creating job opportunities. We see where the wearing of masks from a national security perspective. What I'm saying is, if you are a business, if you are a person going to a store, if you have a child or children in those age groups, guess what? These laws are going to impact you. And from these legislations, you heard subtle hints of it being considered that there will be more amendments coming back. That's fine. What I'm saying now, be prepared for what is already passed. Listen for what's to come. And don't get into the notion that it's bad because we just brought up an amendment or an amendment to a particular piece of legislation was just done in this last sitting. Oh my gosh, the next one may be in the next 3 months and something else is coming back. Laws are not static. Law is not in stone. Based on shifts in our environment locally, based on international shifts, based on impacts that it could have, unintended consequences, more tightening, you can bring them back. You can bring them back. You can bring them back. So it doesn't mean all the time that necessarily the person or individuals or the government, the administration who brought a particular piece of legislation back 3 or 4 times was not savvy enough, didn't take, or just didn't understand that they make hiccups. No, we're just not isolating it there. The broad thing over legislation is that they are not made to remain in stone. And that is why your feedback is key. Yeah, your feedback is key. And this is why I take the opportunity, as boring as it could be for some of you all, to do what I do here, because no more can we remain under the rock and say, I didn't know, I only heard it, or I heard something on the news, so what do you mean? So that I mean the law changed now? I want you all to understand the process. And this is by no means demeaning, talking down to anyone. We needed to do this a long time ago. And these type of talks is long overdue. And no more should we be kept or caught off guard. Not with the power of social media, not with the power of connectivity. And every one of those parliament sessions are a broadcast right now. If I break it down in layman's terms for you to understand, you will understand it better when you sit and you watch. And hopefully you will understand the jargon.
I'm over here stroking my dick. I got lotion on my dick right now. I'm just stroking my dick.
OMG, whatever that was. Well, we're going to block that one. So at the end of the day, this is one of the things with social media and podcasts. You get all sorts of stuff coming across at you. So there you go. But yes, the phone lines are open now with no more of that crap. We're going to block that number for sure. But yeah, so there you have it. And I just want you all to know, let me go to what all of you are saying here. Denver says, Jim said accidentally. Yeah, going back. So I'm just going to play catch up here. Why, when I believe the laws, them should not only be proofed, read, and such errors corrected, not altered. That is, sometimes that happens, Denver, and you can't avoid it. You really can't avoid it. But what I'm saying is the key takeaway of that particular section, or whenever the parliament goes into committee stage, it shouldn't be taken for granted because of the significance. Pretty much a done deal. Yes, pretty much a done deal after the committee stage amendments is done. Grammatical errors not altered. Yep. Okay, I get what you're saying now. Grammatical errors. That's usually not the big ones, to be honest with you, Denver. The big ones is when a comma is left out, a period, a shall or a may, or yeah, those little things, because there's a lot of information that is coming in at the same time. They listen when it's on their doorstep, then they jump up and complain about it. They were not informed or don't understand. Yeah, and that's why I Live Happy. I'm trying to do my best here so that no one can be caught off guard or can't say that they don't have, something that can help them understand and digest everything that's going on. Yes. Oh, good for you. Good for you. Scotty B says, this is what people don't understand. When they elect their MPs, they write and amend these laws, often without understanding what it actually means, or especially the total consequences, intended or unintended, or even both. Yeah. And like I said, open communication is always key. But Scotty B, I could be honest with you, if you can get your elected members of parliament, if there's something that really comes across and you have their contact details, or if their constituency office or offices are functioning, you have every right to go in, find the time, WhatsApp them. Everybody has everybody's numbers, and ask the right question. If you don't even want to type it, voice note it and have them answer you back, and keep at them until they actually respond. That's what they are supposed to do. So it's not that hard and then you will understand how you're being represented, because I get that a lot of people are now understanding the importance of inclusivity and participatory democracy. People used to say it, but I don't think they really understood. And now that we're out there putting a public appeal for persons to really participate during these public consultations, and then we're seeing the consequences and what can happen possibly in committee stage amendments, I'm hoping that people will actually get the importance of participating. And if it is a case where you say, what's the sense of participating if it's not reflected when the amendments come through? Then guess what? You can make your decision at the polls. Make your decisions at the polls. It's simple. It's simple. If you don't feel like you're being listened to, or the process is not inclusive, yet you use certain lines that says, oh, we want to include you, but you don't feel included, then that's a mature conversation to have with your elected members of parliament. And I can assure you, anybody who wants to make that a long-time career, now that we have spaces like this, now that we have and see people where they can go back and they can hear what you say, you're constantly under scrutiny because of YouTube, because of Facebook, because of media on a whole. It's very hard for you to say, I didn't say this, I didn't say that, or this is what you said. What did you mean? It's hard to stay away from that. So I feel that the political role in itself right now, when it comes to being accessible, number one, it should be at the forefront. Two, be versed in all legislations and bills as much as possible, even if it does not fall under your immediate responsibility. Even if you're a member of parliament and that does not fall under your constitutional remit, you need to be in a position that you know. Why? Because when that goes on the floor of parliament, you're voting on it. You don't want to be reading a bill after public consultation or when you get it on the order sheet of parliament to then try to understand what it is because you got to vote on it. I know collective responsibility is one thing, but you got to really know what's going on around you. And people can actually come up to you and ask you about things that is not directly in your remit. But if you're paying attention in your meetings, in your caucus, listening to the public, you need to be prepared while you're at the grocery store, while you're at public events. People can now come and ask you questions on any and everything. And I don't say you have to know everything like in granular detail, but at least clear enough. And your opinion, for the record, does not matter. You're giving an objective view as to what your administration is actually putting forward based on the subject matter that someone could be engaging with you on. One key thing is that you should never give your personal opinion. No. The key of engaging is wanting to hear from the people and be a listener, because a lot of times people just need to understand what it is that's being done. And if you're like, well, really, that don't fall under me, why won't you just call this one? That not good enough. That not good enough. And I can see and I can feel and I can hear a lot of our people saying, that ain't gonna pass, go. Oh no, you need to know what's going on at all times. And if you're worse if you're a cabinet minister, because you're not only representing your constituency at that stage, you're representing everyone. If only we have millions of dollars to funnel, they'd listen real good. Then I'm sure, well, that running out. Scotty B, I don't know if you listened yesterday, where there was a staggering, a very firm cry, I should say, from the Minister of Finance about the cost of a particular line item in government that covers for those caregivers. And bottom line, it's not sustainable. So that gravy train could end very well if we continue to not do the belts and braces on a national perspective. So, like I said, just how businesses, like how you see how the financial industry, you see how the banks now are going to be dealing with foreclosures. I'm quite sure in the public consultation that the government's representatives, government agencies that pulled that apart of that legislation would have engaged with all of the Bankers Association, with industry stakeholders broadly, and they would have had discussions. So from those meetings, they go back and they deal with the directors, the shareholders, and all that sort of stuff and say, look, this is what came out of this meeting. How are we going to do this? How is this going to impact? Will our risk assessment go up now? Can we keep it how we are and just watch what's happening? Let's watch the market. These things are actually real. And that is why I will repeat, you need to do the same thing in your own house. Live Happy says, if we had this sort of information 25 years ago, we would not have had so much of these issues to clear up. Most of these problems would not exist. Live Happy, I believe in one thing. Nothing happens before its time. Not one thing happens before its time. Now we can move forward. And every now and again, whenever we present bills here in this space, is why I take you back in time so that you will understand where we're coming from, where we are, where we want to go. Because exactly what you said, if you had this sort of information 25 years ago, Maybe. But I am hoping not to politicize this conversation, but it's going to politicize the conversation, that with the information being shared, that you're not only sharpening your abilities on how legislation, how the process works, but you will also be more in a better informed perspective. When someone says, I'm putting myself up to run for political office, that all of these things that we have actually shared here, even though it's topic specific, you would be in a better position to be able to identify an individual that public facing, works good with a team, understand laws, can regurgitate it at a certain level, is connected before, maintains connection after, and not just familiarity or based on charismatic nature when one is on a stage. And I will go here. And not an individual who during a particular time, directly or indirectly, offer you gifts for your support. You hear me? All of these things are characteristics for building a nation because, like you said, live happy. If we've had this sort of information 25 years ago, we would not have seen so much of these issues to clear up. Who was paying attention? You were okay just to show up at the polls because you were wined and dined. Because you may have gotten a roof. You may have gotten how much loads of marl. You may have gotten a fridge. Or during an entire term, I don't have to worry. Every Friday I lock. Where has that gotten us? Public consultation comes out. Town hall meetings are happening. No one shows. A handful of people. This is why to this day we are fighting for beach access. We are fighting for beach access to this day. Yeah. Nobody can say that they don't have the opportunity now to be able to be in the know with the way technology is advancing. Access to information is easier, and there is no room for you to doubt. I am just happy that I am able to put myself in the position to be able to do this. Do not ask me whether or not it was a calling, whether or not I see it. No, I didn't see it. You all helped steer this, and this is why I do it. This is why I show up, because I'm realizing this has been missing for quite a while. Yes, yes, yes. Aliano, good evening. How are you? Home yet or still in the lockdown? Getting better. Good to have you with us, my dear. Hope you're doing well. Boy, we are in the dark. No longer live happy. No longer. And this is why I encourage you all. Some may not want to actually call in because we may identify your voices, but 9368255 is a WhatsApp line. If there's specific topics and stuff that you want me to cover or something maybe you want to explore on, all you have to do is to WhatsApp and I will explore. I will never deliver anything unless I actually go and research it so I can deliver in layman's terms. But yeah, I can honestly speak about the processes and supported by, you have the learned Mr. Balika, who can attest that exactly the importance of me doing this. You have our dear friend Denny as well, who have been doing it for years. He's been doing pretty much what I'm doing for years. But like I said, nothing happens before its time. Nothing happens before its time. And the mere fact that they contribute, you have Siobhan too. Where's she been? Oh, Siobhan's been quiet. What's happening, Siobhan? Yeah, but you'll have people like those who actually bring real life scenarios to play into it based on their personal experience based on where they work, what they have seen, what they've advocated for. And then it all ties into exactly some of these subjects that we're talking about. So no longer are we actually in the dark anymore. We can make a huge difference going forward. And if you don't remember anything that I said today, let me tell you, yeah, she probably cut up me. Anything else today, you should definitely be in a more informed position when it comes to election day. You should be more well-rounded because you would have understand the process. You would see exactly those who are at play within your own confines. You would line out pretty much what are the expectations if you're not pleased. And it is clear as day. Removing personal I hear. Remove I don't like. Many a times we do these things on emotions and not for what one can deliver. And I'm hoping now that with some of the amendments being made to some of the law, you're seeing where members of parliament can decide now who gets access to free health care. And yes, there's a level of responsibility. Yes, there's a level of maturity. But I only picked on that one because that was the one that was people are on the fence with still at this time for whatever reason. But let me give a flip side to that. What if it was a case where, for example, one had to be referred to another jurisdiction, but under the old section, it says you got to prove that you came on and you got to prove you got this, we got to do that. Oh, but it's a weekend and that department is closed. We don't have nobody. And the minister sitting right there watching all of that going on. And they can't do a thing because the law is so rigid. Tell you what, there's some executive orders or some moves that you would have to make. But again, because it is the operational arm that you got to stay within the confines, I can see what they're trying to do. I use that as an example only because there is pros and there are cons of certain things. And when you are making decisions to be represented, remove all personal feelings and look at what you feel the person can bring to the table. Because at the end of the day, moving forward, if you see the legislation at play, that in itself should be a rude awakening for a lot of us. Yes. Hey, Andrew, how you doing? Blessed Wednesday to you as well. Aliano says, I watch a shocking video of how the billionaire control everything, but we keep voting for reckless politicians. Well, I hope you heard what I said just now. Jim says, at the end of the day, whether it's beef, hair, or another man land, money always win. It's the talker, the shaker, and the winner every time. Yes, I got that. Not win. Yeah, it's the win. Thank you for that. Connie Bonnie, Siobhan. Yeah, she's been quiet, man. Alfred said, speaking of people who call in, where is I gave an update on Michelle. She's still in Tampa, Alfred. She's still in Tampa with her husband undergoing treatment. And right now, being here on this platform and going through what she has to go through, really, I'm just hoping that a lot of people just keeps her in their prayers to give her the strength. I think she's at the point now where she's wearing. It's tiring. You want to get home, but she knows what she's there. One thing I can say, she's dedicated. She is one committed woman. Yeah, she's one committed woman. So yeah, we miss her a lot. She's been gone from just before Thanksgiving in November when she had that unfortunate, untimely passing of her family member. And then she's had to extend her stay, which is public knowledge. I'm not sharing people's business with the world, but Ms. Shalma has updated us here on this space. And thank you all for actually asking about her. And I will tell her that, you all are reaching and asking out for her and telling her, asking letting her know how much you miss her. Yeah, I will definitely update her. But yeah, that's the problem, why she's not here. And it's a lot. So we just need to keep her in our prayers, please, as we do for all of our Sabrina Speaks family. Get Michelle on. Oh boy, those days. She was my person who took on the birthday wishes. I think Mr. Balika, when Mr. Balika birthday is, anybody remember that date? I think it's the 13th. I got to double check my notes anyhow. Yeah, I digressed for a second. Tartarian, I too hope we get it right this time. We are at the crossroads. It's now or never. Only time will tell, my love. Only time will tell. Jim says, continued thoughts and prayers for Miss Shalma, her husband, and the entire family. Yes. That's true. Thank you so much. We definitely, I know sometimes she logs on, but she don't talk because she don't call. And I can understand. I can understand that. So yes, I want people to understand the importance of these things and why your feedback is so vital, because you are charting the next course and you realize just highlighting the functions and the purpose of committee stage amendments, it's really something that shouldn't be taken for granted. And I'm speaking to everyone who is not elected, and I'm also speaking to those who are elected. Yeah. Go back and watch last night's at the almost to the very end. You could see where they were actually counting to see how much was in the chamber. And guess what? That was when they were doing some serious amendments and back and forth. Yes. That is when you know either you're just tired, you're fatigued, or you just don't understand the power of what that section is. Yeah. Tartarian says, I think every Caymanian family need to have a copy of a Black Law Dictionary in their home and read it. That will help them to understand the shall, the whereas, etc. You know, some of them not gonna do that, but yeah, at least we can bring it here in real time, put it into layman's terms to let them know. But it does help. Even if they don't buy the black book, they can go and Google. You sit there and you scroll through various social media pages and all that sort of stuff. Nowadays, you just Google this or find an AI app or tool or something that is appropriate for breaking down legal jargon and putting it into common man language. It is not that hard. Trust me, it's not that hard. Alfred says, this is a public invitation for Miss Shalma to come on Love and Lies. Oh, okay. Well, I'll definitely grab that and send that to her. Well, I know. Okay, I'll leave it right there for that. Oh, that one came from my foot. My whole imagination went crazy. She'll tell you out. That would be a big one, Alfred. That would be a big one. But thank you too. Yes, and that's every Friday, right? Your show is Friday at 10 o'clock for Love and Lies, definitely. So yeah, what do you think about this? And just moving forward, again, the phone lines are still open. Yeah, well, we don't want more calls like what we just got just now. That one's been blocked. So it just goes to show you idle people. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're living in a moment, to be honest with you as well, that with everything that's happening around the world. And today, I'm not going to tell you I got overwhelmed, but I was like, give me a good story. Give me a good story. Give me a good story. And it's just like, I had to really hold myself together with what I'm seeing coming out of in the news from all sectors and what's happening around the world, the unrest that is only a matter of time. It's going to impact everyone, because it is obvious that we're living in a moment where the world is feeling like it's really shifting. Like literally you are feeling it shift right under our feet, because we're seeing all of these conflicts erupting. We're seeing where right now, Donnie, you got a late slip. We're seeing where even shipping lanes right now, that's the latest thing. Can you imagine? Shipping lanes that are being blocked. We import everything, oil prices, gas, everything is going to, and you got to ask, how in the heck did we get here? What happened? What happened? And yet we still have right here, real life, real time, that's happening out there. We got laws trying to improve people's lives, legislation that lacked teeth or modernization as we continue to live. It's almost like you got to walk and chew gum at the same time. That is the reality of the life that we're living in right now. But with what is happening around the world, I felt the need to really have a conversation today about it. And this is without fear mongering. This is without bombarding you, because this is real. And we're talking about everything. The Middle East may seem far. Oh, really? Good for you. At least you exhaled, and I probably need a whole acre of those. But when you look at the Middle East and what's happening there, and that breaking news that I got just before going live about the school and the kids, like, really? Really? It really shook me to the core. And what is it about? Really and truly, what is it truly about? Stronghold? Isn't it better if we share than for someone to have total control? I am green as grass. I'm just being logical, food for thought. But with what I am seeing right now, is it worth it? Is it all worth it for innocent lives to be lost? Dreams that will never come to fruition. Children that will never be had because we're killing them. Really? These aren't just small things. They involve some of the powers, the strongest powers in the world. And it includes alliances as well. They can choke your access to visas, oil, food. Yeah. And when you look at even the long-standing tensions, long-standing tensions, when we see big jurisdictions just fight. And then what's the end result? As we're seeing pretty much just unfolding before our eyes, the entire world is feeling it. A lot of the food, the goods, from fertilizer straight down, electronics, machines, goes through a particular path. And when these shipping lanes are blocked because of politics, political tensions, we see where the prices at the pumps, what we actually pay to possibly keep the lights on now, is going to go up. We're seeing, and it's already started to go up. When we're seeing all of that, that is going to end up on our groceries. You're talking about Walmart going digital with their price tags? They might not have anything to price at the rate things are going. Yeah. And these prices will continue to rise, and we're already feeling it. Yes. Because governments feel pressure, and we got to do what we got to do to try and keep a sense of normalcy, try to make sure that we can provide a safe place. And this is why it is good that we do all we got to do to protect us here. But we're not immune from the realities of what's happening in the world. We're not immune from what is happening from a geopolitical standpoint of things. And yes, there may be legislation that will have to come in place because there could be a shift in how markets actually play out, how our financial sectors even function. And yeah, that could impact how we locally move on the ground. And when you see big powers flexing in the Caribbean, you see China, you see other global players that are increasing their presence right here on our front step. Some of it is military. In your face, you see it. Some is economic. You feel it. In various stages, different times, but go and define the word economic. And we see it also, some of it being diplomatic in nature as well. But one thing is very clear with what's happening is that we can no longer say that the Caribbean is a quiet corner in the world. That, my friends, has shifted. And that brings us right here to home, because even though we're a British overseas territorial jurisdiction, in many ways we are protected, but it doesn't change where we are geographically located. It doesn't change that. It doesn't even change our cost of living, because that we know for sure we're going to feel the pressure. And when we see from a global standpoint that shipping slows, that our fuel prices rise, hello, Cayman feels it immediately. And we know for a fact, based on economics and statistics data, that we pretty much import everything. Yes. From eggs to engines, little screws, we do. And if you think it's not going to impact us, you got another guest coming. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind
Good
today?
evening, sir.
Mr. Balika, before
Good
you even
evening, sir.
start talking, when's your birthday?
Why?
When's your birthday?
My birthday
Mm-hmm.
is today.
Oh my goodness! I kept
That's
saying it.
that's not true. That's not true.
Oh,
The 13th of May.
Oh, May,
The
not
13th
March.
of May.
Oh, okay. Gosh.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
been on my
The
mind.
13th.
I'm like, oh God, I was going to say this divine event, intervention here, but the universe, but okay. May, 13th of May. I'm not going to forget that.
Yeah. Okay. Now. After that, I hope that there'll be divine intervention in this call, because I think I need it. You see, so
What happened now?
Nothing out of the ordinary. But I just wanted to comment on some of the issues which happened, which you've touched on a little earlier, in relation to Parliament and what they passed. I mean, there's been interesting motions, but the one that caught most of my attention, I listened to most of it, is the one on establishing the Administrative Appeals Tribunal. You know, this tribunal, sometime before, either before I left government or shortly after I left government, I discussed it with a few people there, because I think that's when I was going through my judicial review. And I remember suggesting to people to say, well, look, it would be nice to have a body like this one, because at that time I was aware of this kind of body, by the way, exists in Australia. They've had it since about 1975. So I remember I was talking about it. Now, I don't know whether that's where they picked it up from, or maybe they did their own research. I don't know. I know that this was really something that I spoke about when they slapped me with costs of $80,000, you know, for a judicial review, which lasted 1 day. It was not even a full day, you know, that kind of thing. But I think what they were trying. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where they got that figure from, but anyway, it's a good piece of legislation. I mean, I would have just hoped that perhaps rather than bringing this now, and then, well, let me back up. The way they have done it is they have passed this law now, but before it comes into effect, they have to pass consequential amendments to a bunch of other pieces of legislation: immigration appeals, trade and business license, and so on and so forth. And then they have to bring it back, like, to standardize them. And then the AG said something like they will start initially with 12 tribunals, which include immigration appeals and trade and business licensing and a few others. I don't know why they want to start with only 12. I mean, if you are going to bring in the piece of legislation, you should bring in everything, because after all, the purpose of the legislation is to standardize, to create greater access to appeals, because under certain legislation, actually, there are no appeal processes to a government decision. You just have to go straight to judicial review. In fact, that's one of the main things that this is intended to do, so that at least if you go to ask for a new license somewhere, if they deny it, then your next option shouldn't always be judicial review, because that's very expensive. That is one, but the other thing is also to standardize procedures. They've also, I mean, it's also nice that they've included there a provision to allow for reconsideration of decisions. These quasi-judicial bodies, like Immigration Appeals Tribunal and them,
Right.
once a body is either judicial or quasi-judicial, once they make a decision, they are not allowed to reconsider it. There is a principle of law. There's a principle of law. It's called, if they are functus officio, never mind the term, but basically functus officio means that once a judicial body or a quasi-judicial body has exercised its function, you go there, you apply for a license, and they tell you that it's rejected. They have no power to reconsider it. And the purpose of that principle is to allow for finality of things. Now, difference is, so long as, but however, if a body is only administrative, is not judicial or quasi-judicial, they can reconsider certain things. But in this case, now, the way in which you counteract that principle is to legislate to say that they have the power to reconsider. So this will be very good for this body, because it will mean that you can go there and you can lose a matter. If they make some obvious mistake, you can go back to them to say, no, you've made an obvious mistake, or there are exceptional circumstances. There is a provision there under which you can't just go, and ask for the case again. There's a threshold you have to meet for you to be able to reconsider. But it's a good thing. Okay. The other thing I didn't like about it, one of the things I didn't like about it was that he said something like, the Attorney General said, there will be, like, each act will state the grounds upon which you can challenge the decision of the original making body. Now, I think that could even be unconstitutional, because under Section 19(2) of the Constitution, it says all decisions of public bodies shall be lawful, rational, proportionate, and procedurally fair. So you can't create grounds of appeal which are narrower than that. That is unconstitutional. Okay. So, I mean, now, they could, of course, create those grounds of appeal which will be allowed. They can make them in such a way that they are as wide as they are in their constitution. But if they do so, then why are they making them there? The reason really why they are trying to put them in the act is because they want to narrow them. But I don't think they can do that. Legally, they can't do that, because that would be unconstitutional. Otherwise, there's also a little bit there which might be relevant to the complaint I had with the Judicial Commission. You see, a lot of these bodies sometimes decide issues by an oral hearing, or sometimes what is called a hearing on papers. In other words, you submit your papers and the decision is made. You don't come and appear before the tribunal. Now, from what the AG said, he said that where there is the consent of the parties, if the parties consent, there can be a papers hearing. In other words, the parties can say, well, look, we don't think it's necessary for us to come and appear before the committee. We have put in our papers. You can make a decision based on the papers. But what I like about that is that can only be done on the consent of the parties,
Okay.
according to what the AG said. And which is good, because then they can't tell you, well, we don't want to hear it, just because maybe they don't want the things to be aired because they are maybe embarrassing. I wish that they had a provision like this in the rules concerning the complaints to judges. I wish they had this. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. In this judge who look, I will mention the judge's name because the name is on the website, the cases are public, and so on. So I can mention the name without any legal repercussions. The name is Ian Kawali. Ian Kawali was a judge of the Grand Court from Bermuda initially, but he's gone back now to Bermuda. He's president of the Court of Appeal. So I filed a complaint against him, which is the one which is coming up again before on the 23rd and 24th. But you see, what I told the commission, I said, you know what? I said, this case has got such strong evidence. There is need for the parties who were involved in some of the facts concerned to appear and talk. I have 13 emails which show that this judge was lying. Those 13 emails are shared by a number of people, 8 people, 4 in the judiciary, 3 in the private sector. They have never given evidence why he contradicted the email. So it is important that there is an oral hearing. Mm-hmm. You know what the Judicial Commission said? They said, no, we can't give you an oral hearing. They just made a decision based on the papers. And that, of course, is unfair, because there are a lot of court cases which say, look, if evidence is particularly strong, it is important to have an oral hearing, because then people have to hear why is it that those papers are not making any difference. So this is a very, very good provision, and I hope that this can be used maybe for the Judicial Commission. Okay. The other good thing about this body is, like we said, it is very costly to do a judicial review in the Cayman Islands. You are talking about 50 grand minimum, if you are going to do a judicial review. A small judicial review might be maybe somewhere about 40, but it's very, very expensive. And what this will do is that instead of going to court, you go, of course, before this tribunal. But the tribunal, however, has limitations as to how much costs can be charged. You can't wind up the way I wound up and some other people wound up, where they go to court to seek a judicial review, they lose, and they are made to pay 40 or 50,000. Okay. Here, before this tribunal, there can never be an order like really of that amount, because what they say under this is that the default rule is that every party will bear their own costs. The government will bear their own costs, and you bear your own costs. However, if somebody has acted in a particularly unreasonable way, has wasted the time of the other side, they can ask you just to pay the filing fee which the other side paid. Okay. The filing fee. Okay, so there are some basic rules which are saying we do not want costs to be a limitation factor here. So people should not be scared to go there and say, well, they might charge me 10,000, 20,000. So they've got some provisions which deal with that. And that also is very good. Mm-hmm. But having said that, Sabrina, we can put together all these institutions, but are we supporting them? Under the Constitution today, there is the Anti-Corruption Commission. I forget whether the Anti-Corruption Commission is under the Constitution, but it exists. Mm-hmm. The Human Rights Commission, though, is under the Constitution, the Ombudsman, and all these other bodies. But are we supporting them? I would contend that in Cayman, these institutions are not supported. I find that they are put by the government.
Who? Okay.
The government, I feel, that puts these institutions together, and it says that these institutions are independent. By the way, this commission this tribunal is going to be independent. It is going to be independent, and yet, when certain people are victimized, somebody is appointed to any of these bodies and is victimized. Why does that happen? And when they are victimized, why aren't they defended? I have to go back again here to the situation of the ombudsman.
Mm-hmm.
The ombudsman is going through this process of trying to having her removed. And in my view, and I'll put myself on the record again, I don't think she has done anything even resembling something over which she can be removed. But what is the reason? In my view, the reason is because there are some decisions she took they didn't like. Who didn't like them? Different elements in the government. In my view, I suspect more the Attorney General, the Chief Justice, some people in government, they've been unhappy about some decisions she has taken. She found this Judicial and Legal Service Commission high-powered body. She said, you are guilty of maladministration. You can't wait 7 years without putting together the rules which the Constitution says you should put together. I don't think they liked that. And it was made public. She also chastised the judiciary for deleting a record. Deleting a record in a matter where an FOI has been made. Then they deleted the record. By the way, all these cases are cases involving me. How do you delete a record and then you call me a vexatious litigator? And then another time again, they refused to take a judgment, which a default judgment I had filed. And then later on, they were forced to, after the harm was done, they were forced to admit by the ombudsman to say that, well, we made a mistake. We shouldn't have refused to get the record, the judgment, because it was in order. There are other decisions which she has made. I will also say this to you. At the time they started, these disciplinary proceedings against her, she was doing another complaint from me, which was that the Attorney General should reveal how much he had spent on my case in the last 5-6 years. And we went back and forth. The Attorney General said, well, we don't have a record that we have spent. Well, we don't have a record of engaging this particular lawyer because the people who said they were going to pay is the judiciary. So she widened the investigation to the judiciary. And so she asked the judiciary, do you have a record of how much this lawyer was paid? The judiciary also said, no, we don't have a record. The whole thing wound up basically with both the judiciary and the Attorney General refusing to say how much they had spent in my case, refusing to even say there was a retainer agreement. In fact, eventually they said there was no retainer agreement. Then I told them, I said, no. If you don't have a retainer agreement and you can bring a case from the UK to appear in multiple courts, then you are in violation of the sections 5 and 6 of the National Archives and Public Records Law, because that says every government entity must maintain records of its business affairs.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you fail to maintain those records, the deputy governor can initiate disciplinary proceedings against the recalcitrant authority. So at about that time, that's when these disciplinary proceedings started. Now, I know some other cases not involving me where also government was unhappy. So I go back to the tribunal. You put these tribunals together and you say they are independent. And yet when they make decisions which you don't like, then you want to remove them on flimsy details. You remember that the reason they are saying they want to remove the ombudsman is she banged the table one time, and that one time she also didn't give sufficient feedback to somebody. I know people in government who specifically told the Caymanian, we are not going to train you, and those people were still promoted, and today they are even working as consultants. To me, that is something that they could have really punished. But you want to punish somebody for banging a table. So the point I'm trying to make simply is, don't create these bodies if you are not going to support them. Let me give you another example. And this one, again, I can call a name because it has been made public. Steve McField revealed on OC's show more than once. He said that when they were working on these new reform, immigration reform matters, he got calls from people in the private sector who wanted to speak to him. And he said he refused because clearly they were trying to influence him. And not too long after, he was removed from one of the boards. Okay? And another time... You see that? Yeah. He was removed, and he said that himself. I'm not. This is not rumor. This is something which was said in public. He was removed from that body. Another thing that he revealed was that they had become really strict with these marriages of sham marriages.
Yeah.
And they instituted some procedures, between Chris Saunders, who was the minister responsible, then Richard Barton, who was, I think, chair of the board or was on one of the boards. And I understand somebody visited them from the Attorney General to say, you've got no right to do this. Now, I don't know the details of what they were doing, but I know they were becoming very strict on that. And somebody, again, Steve disclosed that somebody from the Attorney General said they couldn't do certain things, and that was about the same time he was removed. So you tell me, I'm challenging the government. Why are you creating these bodies? If after you create them, and you say they are independent, and then they do the job that they are created to do, then you are unhappy. Then you want to remove people from those boards. Meanwhile, you can only do that usually to Caymanians. The last DPP was an absolutely sob job. Okay, he was there selectively prosecuting people. It became an issue in the Legislative Assembly. Even the governor said, well, we will try to find out why certain people were prosecuted, others were not prosecuted when, some people didn't want to press charges. They were being encouraged to press charges for political reasons. That DPP left, and I understand he's still in Cayman now doing some legal advice somewhere. So I challenge the government. You can't create these bodies if you can't support them. Let me mention a last example. When I was in government, I mentioned to you some time back, I think, how after I designed the courses, I tried to teach them in government. They accepted them in government. The chief officers accepted them. Oh yeah, we want to learn about judicial review. We want to learn about legislative process. I said, okay, fine. Then they assigned two chief officers. One chief officer who is still there in government now. The second chief officer was my chief officer then, who is no longer in government. Ms. Jacqueline Wilson, who was Solicitor General and Chief Officer. She's now a judge in the High Court in Trinidad and Tobago. She told me, there was such a big interest at the Chief Officers meetings. They really wanted us to have two pilot courses for judicial review and legislative process. And then if they like it, then they can expand it in the civil service. But then what happened out in McLaughlin then as Premier, together with the Attorney General, they didn't like that. So they squashed the whole thing. So I tried to teach privately. And that's where the story now becomes interesting. A Caymanian approached me, a generational Caymanian. Well, why don't you come within my company part-time? We can teach these courses. I want my people to benefit from you being here. She put together this company, and I applied to government to say, give me permission to teach part-time. And I didn't think it was going to cause a problem because at that time it had been reported in the campus that more than 200 people had been given permission to do private things. There were even people who were running businesses and supplying goods to the department in which they worked. And they were being given permission to do that from the deputy governor. There was also another case in the portfolio of legal affairs of a lawyer who was given permission to do private legal work for a private company, not court work, but private legal work. And yet when I said, can I just teach part-time? They said, we can't give you permission for that. So what I did was, I took it to the Civil Service Appeals Commission. You know what the Civil Service Appeals Commission said? They said there's nothing unfair about what they've done in your case. So at the end of the day, to me, again, it looks like either those people were not up to their job, or maybe they were pressured to say, well, this is Bill Simamba's thing, don't give it to him. All I'm trying to say, Sabrina, is let's create all these bodies if we want to create them. But if they are not doing their proper job,
To be
because
independent.
we are to be independent, it is a problem. But I mean, it's been put together, and that's why I wanted to mention some of these very good things which have been put in that legislation. Anybody who wants to check where they got it from, if you go to the internet and just search for Administrative Appeals Tribunal Australia, and also put in 1975, it should come up. That's where I think they got most of this. Even the drafting style also looks more like an Australian style. So let's see what happens.
Did you obviously watched some of the proceedings last night, but what was interesting, and to show you again where, as you rightfully see, maybe some of the things are not identified. There was the motion on the Administrative Appeals Tribunal Bill 2025, right, that you were speaking about. Do you notice when the
Yeah.
floor was open for it to be debated, no one, and I stand to be corrected, but from what my memory serves me, no one debated.
Well, this is the thing. You see,
How are you going to debate
I
something if you really don't have a true grasp? What if there were
yeah,
leaders?
exactly.
I'm being devil's advocate, but I thought, and it's because now, yes, we're in this space. I'm looking at other things and all of that, but
Yeah.
nobody said anything really to say, okay, let's debate it.
Yeah, you see, what they try to do sometimes, I'm sorry to say, it might sound cynical. Sometimes they have these late nights. By the time Premier Andre got up to ask for an adjournment of the House, it was a little bit after 1:30.
You see, I know
Okay.
it was, yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
the
it was really. It was the next morning. It's like they hang around there and they appear to be doing these things. But at the end of the day, when you are sitting that late in the night, how many people are sitting there to watch you to watch you debate and to follow what you are doing? Okay, when you are doing that in one night, I mean,
it goes
the
back to
premier was on.
Sorry, it goes back to what Nikki is saying, and I don't think I think this is a statement more than, yeah, it's a question as well, but call in to be a part of the conversation. Well, that's my show, but you got two things intertwined in here. Maybe people would like to have a say in decisions that were being made, a conversation before, not after. So I think you got it both thing here. Being a part of the conversation has nothing to do with how government actually invites or creates a space for participatory democracy, which is going into what Mr. Balika is trying to say right now. This space is independent. And we are actually bringing a lot of things to the forefront to be a part of the conversation. And we know that people are listening. Now, to your point, maybe people would like to have a say in decision that are being made a conversation before, not after. We've had people in those elected positions that say outright there will not be coming on certain spaces.
Yeah. Look, Andre was on Sandra's show, a few days ago, maybe a week or two ago, and he was encouraging people to become knowledgeable as much as possible, to follow debates. And one thing that he specifically said, he said, sometimes you don't even have to sit down and watch like television. You can be doing something, you just have it on.
Correct.
And listening to. How many people are going to be listening up to 1:30? How many people are going to be listening?
Well, the thing is, in real time is one thing, but people can go back tonight and watch it, and they can watch it at 7, 8 o'clock because it's already gone. The key is, and it wouldn't matter because when it's being debated on the floor of Parliament, it's too late anyhow for public participation. Your input, your say means nothing save than a riot out on the front of Parliament. Because
if you are going to influence it, you must, like you were saying earlier on, you call your MP, text them, while the consultation period is taking place, and that's when you can influence it. And you see, the other thing about this, so to me, the idea that it's a general criticism I've always had of the Legislative Assembly. That our Legislative Assembly, the way it operates in Cayman is that you do not know when it's going to sit. In 2018, I started making this point on crosstalk, and I remember having a little bit of a discussion with Ezra Miller, and he really took that on because he was saying, look, we don't even know when Parliament is going to sit. In other countries, they have got a schedule. If you go to the website of the UK Parliament or New Zealand Parliament, they will you will see a table there which says the days when they are going to sit throughout the year, because they decide that at the end of the parliamentary year, there's this committee which looks into it. They say, okay, what are the days when we are going to sit? They decide them 365 days in advance. This is the day we are going to sit. If there's going to be a sitting which will go into the night, even that is identified that early. Because people have to make arrangements. They have to go for vacations. They have to arrange for office work and this and that. And I'm just happy that at least government has started moving towards that, in the sense that Andre did give towards the end of the proceeding. He did give an indication of the months when they will sit. Like
Again.
up to June next year. Yeah, he said, okay, we will sit. I think he said August. The summer we will sit. Dates are still to be. He gave an indication. To me, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
That at least they are trying to take on board. Getting there to have predictability regarding that. But the last thing, let me mention, because you are almost there. Okay, there were some people who were on talk today. I don't know their names. They talked about disabilities. There were people in disabilities, and they were saying that from 2016,
inclusion came on.
It's probably inclusion came on. Yeah,
they have an event that's
because. Yes, they were talking about that event. Yeah. And they said from 2016 they've been advocating for a disabilities legislation, and she said, "Well, look, up to now it hasn't been done." You see, part of the problem with legislation in Cayman is unless your legislation has to do with financial services or tourism, it is very difficult for you to get your stuff on the legislative program. Now, what we did, when me and my Caymanian business partner, when we were trying to teach these courses and so on, one of the other things that we tried to do was to try and help government to draft legislation. So what she did, she saw the deputy governor and a number of people in government to say, look, Mr. Simamba has just left government. And by the way, that time I hadn't become controversial. I was not calling radio at that time. I was just lying low. So she went to government and said, we can help you write legislation. There have been a lot of people who've been waiting for legislation for 4, 5, 6 years, and we can help you write legislation. And you will know it will be properly done, because this was somebody who worked in the department there. We got one job to do, which was I wrote the Criminal Records Spent Convictions Act. I was the drafter for it, but we worked. I did a lot of the research as well, but also the research was done by Department of Children and Family Services, the prisons, and the police, and then we worked on it and we did it and finished it. By the way, I learned a lot during that. That's when I learned that there are a lot of kids in Cayman who had never traveled overseas. Why? Because they were caught with a joint when they were 16 years old. I mean, it was so yeah. But we wrote that, and it was passed. And as soon as they found out that I was involved in it, we got no more work. The point I'm trying to make is this. You've got the expertise in the community to ensure that Caymanians are not waiting for legislation for so long, like these people on disabilities. And yet, because of political reasons, you do not want certain people to assist you in doing that. Look at what this legislation 2016 relating to disabilities. Now, if the problem with that is really the technical abilities, I plan to get in touch with Charles Glidden to let them know I can do it for them. We can talk about terms which will be very, very reasonable, because I was really touched today to imagine a disabilities legislation hasn't been done. And I understand there was already some research which was done there. I think I should leave you there. It's about 2 minutes to go. So
thank you very
much. But thanks again for the time. Yeah, thanks very much.
Sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good evening. Always jam-packed here, so we're going to get onto this. Hey, Miss Dorothy, how you doing? Denver says a few people have been removed from boards for standing up and doing the right thing. Denver says, he also says this corruption still exists. And Damian Henry's weighing in, saying only emergency parliament should go on that late. Well, that's where we are right now. But that, my friends, unfortunately, brings us to the close of another episode of Sabrina Speaks right here on CMR TV for today. I want to thank all of you for commenting, for the one legitimate call that we got, and for definitely all of your messages. But, I just want to bring it back around to reality, because we started off on Parliament, the bills, and all of that good stuff. And then we came with realities is what's happening around the world. But Parliament has done its part, but the real impact comes when these laws now are implemented and then definitely felt in our daily lives whenever those commencement days are going to be. We have to keep it locked to really find out exactly when that will come into play, because that's when we're going to feel the impacts of them on our day-to-day lives. So whether it's cleaner streets, whether it is smoother land transaction, or even stronger financial oversight, or you know how it comes with immigration, these changes will touch every single one of us. And right here on Sabrina Speaks, I will continue to do my best to break it all down and create that space and create that environment for you to call in, weigh in, and give your suggestions. And one conversation, one bill at a time. I want to tell you all, thank you so much again. And I want to encourage you all to stay informed and definitely stay engaged. And good night. Be safe on the streets. Love you lots. Good night.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, K-Man, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.